Why are some wealthy Brexiteers so keen on a no-deal Brexit? How would they profit from an event that economists agree would make the country poorer? The truth is obscured by a myth about the EU.
Either you want to live in Monsieur Macron's Europe, with a United States of Europe, with a European army, with all power vested in the centre in Brussels, or you believe in being an independent, self-governing nation-state. That is the European debate in a sentence.
This is, in fact, the problem with the whole European debate. Britain can't take back control from the EU because we never lost it. 99% of UK public expenditure is determined by the UK government, which shapes all major political policy from education to marriage, divorce and the NHS. The exception is immigration, but the UK controls the vast majority of immigration, which is from outside the EU. Immigrants from within the EU are the most valuable for the UK economy, paying for more hospital and school places than they use. So it's unlikely that the government will rush to reduce numbers.
Theresa May was Home Secretary for all those years. Why did she do nothing about it if this was the burning issue? And the reason why I think she didn't do anything is because our social services depend upon the skills of the doctors and the nurses in the health service. And the government didn't want to be put in a position where it is obviously controlling these numbers, creating shortages here, lengthening the queues.
EU countries don't give up their independence or sovereignty. The Netherlands and Portugal legalized cannabis. Germany's purity law means beer can only contain hops, malt and water. And mowing the lawn on a Sunday could land you a fine of 50,000 euros. Italy is no less Italian, France is no less French. Britain is wonderfully, endearingly Britain. At its best, for me at least, it means Britain had the control over its laws that meant I was able to marry the man I loved and wanted to spend my life with 4 years ago. At its worst, Britain, alone in the EU, also had enough control to decide to institute a preposterous and unworkable porn ban, in which we're supposed to give out online our credit card and passport numbers to prove our age.
The porn blog is one of the worst ideas ever invented. At the moment, unless you're Facebook or Google, it's actually pretty hard to match up someone's real identity to their online behaviour. Unless, that is, you make people log into your site with their real name, real email address and real credit card details, which is exactly what this legislation will force people to do. And this database would be gigantic.
Despite the absolute truth that anything online can be hacked. But the illusion of Britain losing control resonated with those feeling trapped at the wrong end of inequality.
Take back control of our country, vote leave, and let's make sure that June the 24th is Independence Day.
This obscured a true attempt to take control, financial control, for the wealthy. Far from interfering in national politics, the EU works on projects that require cooperation, like improving air quality, cutting international call costs, and reducing tax evasion. New EU laws make it very difficult to dodge tax by moving profits to low-tax countries, and a new general anti-abuse rule covers national tax loopholes. Leading Brexiteers have suggested that post-Brexit London could follow the example of Singapore. The Financial Secrecy Index, which tracks tax havens and capital flight, ranks Singapore 5th in the world with a secrecy score of 67. Nigel Farage may like the sound of this, as it's more secretive than the Isle of Man, a tax haven where he was found to have set up a trust fund. Jacob Rees-Mogg's investment company is managed via subsidiaries in the tax havens of the Cayman Islands and, coincidentally, Singapore. This is all legal and an established part of Britain's tax network for the wealthy. The Financial Secrecy Index states that If Britain's network were assessed together, it would be the single most financially secretive place in the world. Suddenly, Brexit's appeal to the wealthy makes more sense, particularly a no-deal Brexit, which would mean no requirement to abide by strict new financial regulations. MP Owen Peterson said, "If we are to thrive, our post-Brexit model should exactly be Singapore. Low tax, low spend, low regulation." Trump's tax policy provides a glimpse of the potential impact. A large corporation tax cut led to a steep drop in tax receipts and ballooning national debt. And the impact of financial secrecy on schools and hospitals is felt all over the world. African countries have lost over $1 trillion in capital flight, dwarfing their combined external debt. So Africa is in fact a major net creditor to the world, but its assets are in the hands of a wealthy elite, protected by offshore secrecy, while debts are shouldered by normal Africans. Brexit threatens to undo EU progress. Sajid Javid, a contender to replace Theresa May, who has worked as a banker in Singapore, has spoken about using tax cuts and deregulation to transform the post-Brexit UK economy. The NHS may also be transformed in the true attempt to take control by corporations.
I think we're going to have to think about healthcare very, very differently. And I think we're going to have to move to an insurance-based system of healthcare.
The Initiative for Free Trade, launched at the Foreign Office by Boris Johnson and Liam Fox, thinks American healthcare companies should be allowed to run NHS hospitals after Brexit. The IFT aims to, quote, recapture the moral case for open commerce. In other words, take back control for corporates. Environmentalists describe its plans as a low standards free-for-all.
As a doctor, I do get worried about how polluted the air is around us, especially for children.
Stood in front of the school, we saw that the NO2 levels we're measuring actually became higher, and we now have a high pollution reading.
And certainly, working in A&E, we've definitely seen a rise of cases of children with wheezy problems.
So loads of things that the EU has banned because they could be harmful to our health or to the environment are totally fair game in the US. From the chemicals in your cosmetics to the pesticides sprayed on the crops that you eat. So as trade talks with the UK begin, the US is going to want to wrangle it so that we have a system that's welcoming to US exports, from chlorinated chicken to veggies sprayed with bee-harming pesticides.
There are also, of course, simpler political motivations. Nigel Farage has run for MP 7 times. As the leader of UKIP, he found a following and has focused on Brexit ever since. The illusion of losing control is very effective. But it's not Britain that needs to take back control, it's the British public.
I suppose it's a paradox, really. Many people saw it as, if you like, something of a rejection of a way things had been done.
Yes.
Big business. Your campaign actually did campaign explicitly against big business. And perhaps a feeling by the public, these people have been getting away with murder. I mean, basically, they don't seem to pay any tax. They sort of run around the world doing what they want. The irony that post-Brexit we would become a tax haven for big companies, is that what the public had intended when they made that vote?
It's a very good point, but I think there's a distinction to be made. There's a sort of corporatist Davos man approach, rigging the rules of the market in favour of incumbents and the already wealthy, and there's a slightly different approach. In fact, I would argue a radically different approach, which is we're in favour of free markets, not big business. We're in favour of competition and insurgents,
you're
not
talking
the big
about
players.
cutting the taxes of internationally mobile companies. They've got to be internationally mobile in order to induce them to come here to pay the reduced tax rates. Is that what people thought they were getting?
With a vote on the deal, there would be a genuine opportunity to boost NHS funding and hit certain wealthy elites where it hurts. Now, what would you call a new myth-busting campaign to take back control from tax-dodging corporations and lying politicians? How about take back control? Around the world, manipulative misinformation threatens our health, our schools and hospitals, and the environment. join us to truly take back control. Our first Brexit Bullshit Award goes to the party that grew from a mountain of Brexit bullshit, which we have debunked in detail. Nigel Farage says he will announce his policies after the election, but there's plenty to go on.
We may have made one of the biggest, stupidest collective mistakes in history by getting so worried about global warming. I think we're going to have to move to an insurance-based system of healthcare.
Farage campaigned for a deal with the EU.
Actually, Norway can afford to give people money. It's rich. It's successful. Norway. They're rich. They top the world's happiness index. They're allowed to catch their own fish.
But now he wants a very different no deal Brexit. He's treating the EU elections like a referendum on Europe. So let's have a proper one. An informed vote, asking who's really taking control.